Hey everybody, it's Allie and welcome to our Y&R chat for Sunday, June 5th, 2016. What a weird twist of fate that pretty much everyone in Genoa City thinks Adam is innocent. If this were 1 year or 2 years ago, everyone would be at his condo door with pitchforks and knives and flaming torches, and now here pretty much everyone believes in him, believes that he wouldn't have killed Constance. Pretty much everyone sort of wants a second exhumation of Constance's body to try to prove the truth. The only one who really doesn't want it and who is the only one whose opinion really matters is Nick. Nick is not having it. He does not want to disturb Sage's memory. He's not happy about the fact that the contents of her diary have been made public in the first place, and he certainly doesn't want to go digging up Constance's body a second time. I mean, first of all, why didn't they keep a control sample anyway of the test that was performed in the first place? Hasn't the GCPD seen Making a Murderer? Don't they know that these results can and probably will be tampered with? They should have kept some other kind of sample. Why do we have to go back into the ground to get her to prove it? I mean, I really wouldn't. It is disrespectful. I can't believe that they exhumed her body in the first place to pursue this. It's all a bit out of left field and a little bit wild if you ask me. It's also surprising that it seems like the opinion has shifted that Constance wasn't really poisoned at all, that maybe they did the exhumation, took the sample, and that the evidence was tampered with in the lab. And if that's the case, then there has to be a dirty cop or a dirty medical examiner or a lab tech or somebody else who made it happen, and it's gonna be Paul's job to find out who that is. I absolutely loved the teeny tiny little scene between Michael and Paul this week. It was adorable. I love seeing those two just talking like respectable adults who like each other and who are on opposite sides of this whole debate, but who can hold a conversation. And I love that Michael was very real with Paul, and Paul returned that favor. Michael said to him, "I'm convinced that Victor is the one who is framing Adam for this, and I think you're coming to the same conclusion at your own Paul-like pace." That was a great line, because Paul does have a tendency to be a little slow, or I guess one could say thorough. He is the chief of police. He has his protocol that he needs to follow, but I just thought that was such a nice little exchange between them, and I'm glad that Paul is looking into it. I don't know where his investigation is going to lead, because meanwhile, Adam and Chelsea are the ones who are really taking this whole matter into their own hands. They've realized that they can't even count on anyone. Even the people who believe in his innocence aren't really wanting to go out of their way to help him. Nobody is willing to really stick their neck out. He tried appealing to Nick as a brother. Adam said, "We're brothers, we're kind of in this family together. You know, can you help me here, please? This is my life. Do you want me to lose my family and lose my son when you know I couldn't have done this?" But that didn't work. Nick is absolutely staunch. I think all Nick can really see is his grief. I think Nick is just looking through his own grief window, and it's clouded his judgment for being able to have really empathy for anyone else, especially for Adam. But it didn't go over very well. At this point, Adam and Chelsea, I think, are both feeling desperate. The walls are closing in. The court date is set. Adam is going to trial for this. And if the evidence remains as it is and everything is as it stands now, then Adam is probably going to get convicted. He's probably going to go to jail. And neither Adam or Chelsea are going to sit idly by while that happens. I loved the very end of the confrontation between Adam and Nick. I think it was even on Friday's show where where Adam says to Nick, do you think this is just about me here? This is about all of us. Victor is framing me now, but one of these days, Victor is going to reach your name on that little revenge list that he's keeping. And when that happens, when Victor comes for you next, don't come looking to me for help. Why am I still not convinced that Victor is the one who's framing Adam? I think it's really mostly because I'm expecting Y&R to throw us a red herring here. I feel like Victor's the red herring and there's going to be some other twist right around the corner. And last week's poll results kind of made me think you guys are in the same vein as me in thinking that. So last week's poll question was, who is framing Adam for Constance's murder? The majority of you, 44%, chose Chloe, which I think is a really interesting possibility, and the more I think about it, the more I like it. Chloe is not on the scene right now, but we had that one kind of rumored report out there from Daytime Confidential that Elizabeth Heinrichsen is coming back to the show, and then of course a bunch of other soap outlets kind of reported on that same story. But for now, I'm only seeing it from that one source, but I hope it's true. I really, really do. I think that if it's true, Chloe coming back onto the scene could both add a lot of pizzazz, a lot of spice into like Kevin's life, and we all know she might be carrying Billy's baby, so there's a lot of storyline potential for Chloe. But when it comes to Adam, who would have the bigger motive for making Adam Newman pay? Chloe has never forgiven Adam, and in a lot of ways I don't think she really forgave Chelsea either. So Chloe is a real possibility here, but that means that it would have to be down the line. I'm almost thinking if Chloe were the culprit, then it would have to, since I guess she can't be filming scenes already if nothing's confirmed, I would imagine it would be another couple months before we found that out, which makes me wonder if Adam is actually gonna go to jail. But that's certainly not the only possibility. The second most popular option on our Who Framed Adam for Constance's death poll was the real Gabriel Bingham. I also think this is an interesting possibility, and I keep also hearing that rumor floating around that maybe Travis is the real Gabriel Bingham, so that could be fun too. Or maybe, who knows, they could cast somebody totally different to be the real Gabriel, and he would, I think, not have a motive necessarily for killing Constance, but for framing Adam, certainly. I mean, the guy kind of stole his life. That might tick me off a little bit. The next popular answer actually, let me make sure I say Chloe received 44% of the vote. The real Gabriel Bingham at a gap was the second choice at 17%. So most people thought it was Chloe, but 15% thought it was Sage, which we theorized quite a bit about last week, or that was sort of my theory on the situation, and that was my vote. I don't know if it's still right. Now I'm just wishing it was Chloe, whether it will be or not. Then we have 11% saying that Victor did it, and another 11% saying that they have another theory, an other theory, which I'll talk about in a second. And then of course 2% saying no one framed Adam, he's guilty. I would struggle to think that Adam would actually do that, but I mean, Adam's done some pretty bad stuff, so at this point nothing's outside of the realm of possibility. But let's zero in on this 11% of you who said other, because there's some other interesting theories out there. Aaron left a comment at yrchat.com that said he thinks Constance was poisoning herself. Whoa, I love that idea. I think Erin was kind of saying that she was feeling distraught over, maybe finding out that her grandson had actually died, and just feeling sad and depressed, and so she kind of did a slow poisoning of herself, which is an interesting theory. And let's see, a couple people, including Sandra in the comments here, mentioned that maybe Luca was doing it. Luca has his hands in so many different things. When is he gonna have a chance to work on framing Adam too? But there's definitely a rivalry there. I think, didn't Adam assume it was Luca right off the bat, or there was a confrontation between those two really early with this? It's definitely a possibility, but I really liked that both Sandra and Gina on Facebook had left comments early in the week saying that they thought Ian Ward could be one of the possibilities of someone who's framing Adam. I mean, the Paragon virus, that whole thing went sour. There's not a lot of love lost between those two. So I never would have thought of that. I don't know why. It's like, I feel like every time there's a question of some villain out there who does something, I'm always wondering who it could possibly be, and I'm pulling names out of the clouds, and then it ends up being Ian Ward. So I was, I guess, a little bit shocked, a little bit thrilled to see Ian actually show up this week. So that was a really good guess by the people who predicted that. And it was nice, I think, to kind of see Ian. He is just one of my favorite villains of all time. I think he's so fun. I loved seeing him talking fathers and sons with Adam, and he had this great line saying something like, well, you know, Cronus, he ate his children so that they wouldn't usurp his power. And during the conversation with Adam, Adam said, well, actually, yeah, Victor just prefers to chew his children up and spit them out again. Oh, there's just such great writing every time Ian Ward is on screen. And of course, that delivery is so hauntingly creepy. It's compelling. I just love seeing him. I tell you, I was a little bit surprised by all of this. Adam was the one who initiated the conversation with Ian Ward. He's just gotten out of solitary confinement, and Adam is there to ask a favor of Ian. He wants Ian to see if he can talk to Victor on the inside and get him to brag or confess to setting him up. First of all, Victor is not going to confess or brag or anything else to Ian Ward. I will tell you that right now. Second of all, I'm surprised that Adam would even think to ask Ian, because, I mean, considering the fact that Ian almost tried to kill Adam, and Adam left Ian for dead in the Newman Tower fire. I would be surprised that he would even think that, and that Ian would agree. Of course, there's a little bit of a deal making going on there, but I tell you, something is fishy there to me. I am just kind of wondering, when it comes to the question of who is framing Adam, is there any chance that Adam is overlooking the wolf that is sitting right there in front of him named Ian Ward? Let's talk about Nick for a second. I love this guy more than I think I've ever loved him. I thought he was hilarious and adorable this week, taking Faith to the daddy-daughter dance and busting out his moves. Of course, he wanted to save his more exotic moves so that he didn't make the other dads feel intimidated. He is funny. I mean, I think that's sort of like the vibe of Nick's whole character, and we've seen such a darker side of him more recently that it was nice to lighten things up seeing him with Faith. I just think that Nick has been through such an incredible shock and a loss, and I don't think he quite knows what to do with himself, and it's not enough to just deal with the death of Sage and still feeling the remnants of the loss of his children, which would never go away. He doesn't really want to deal with this whole issue of Sage's diary and the exhumation of Constance's body. I'm sure in some ways Nick probably just wishes he never would have found the diary in the first place. He's the one who turned it in. He's the one who asked Dylan to pursue Adam. So I wonder if there's an element where Nick just also doesn't want to be wrong. Maybe Nick doesn't want to think that he is causing more pain or taking a father away from his children, but everyone is trying to talk to him. There was a really great scene this week where Dylan was trying to talk to Nick. They were bonding as brothers, and Dylan is expressing the fact that he doesn't think Adam did this. And I almost thought Dylan was breaking through to Nick a little bit, but nope. I mean, it all goes to hell in a handbasket real quick. Nick doesn't want to be pressured. And that's exactly why, or part of the reason why, when Chelsea called Sharon over and tried to ambush her into talking to Nick and convincing him to allow Constance's body to be exhumed, like that really did not go over well. I mean, Sharon was trying to be real nice with Chelsea at first and just say, you know, I don't really feel comfortable talking to Nick. He doesn't want to be pressured, and I don't feel, you know, we're not that close. So Sharon tries to play it off, but Chelsea is like becoming increasingly desperate. And I thought that both of the women played their parts so well, because I felt Chelsea's desperation in that moment, and I felt Sharon's discomfort in that moment, and not just about anything having to do with Nick. I mean, Sharon's like, I'm busy keeping this gigantic secret right now. I can't deal with whatever you need me to do, okay? It was really, I mean, Sharon kind of blew up on Chelsea, and Chelsea just didn't get it. She thought it was gonna be an easy talk, like, hey, why don't you just like talk to him for a second? And Sharon was obviously hiding something. I don't know if Chelsea necessarily picked up on that, but it was a complete bust. I'm sorry, I have to say, because I've accidentally not said it for 3-4 weeks in a row. How gorgeous does Chelsea look lately? After she got her cute little shorty haircut and they started kind of giving her some crinkly curls, the fashion just went through the roof. Like every single time she is on screen, she is just rocking it. She is killing it. I'm like, oh my gosh, she looks beautiful. I don't know what the heck happened, but there's just something about her. She's rocking all these summer looks, looking super beautiful right now, and I just had to mention it. Thumbs way up for whoever is styling her. And she's really, in general, the character is coming to the forefront and really taking charge of her own life and showing herself to be Mrs. Adam Newman. I mean, wow, when all other avenues failed, Chelsea tells Adam that she has the only idea that's going to get them out of this. They need to tell Nick about his precious sage. Ooh, that was a good moment when she was like, look, we just got to tell him. This is the only option we have. And Adam was really taken aback by that. He does not want to betray Sage's final wish. It was the one thing she asked of him. Adam obviously felt bonded to her for having the child together. I think that there was just something between Adam and Sage, and call it love, call it respect, call it camaraderie, and probably there was a romantic element to it. But Adam does not want to do that, even as a last resort. But Chelsea's like, why should we lose our lives and our family just to protect Nick's memory of his dead wife? I was really shocked that those words were coming out of Chelsea's mouth, but yet I found it so identifiable. To be honest with you, I thought, well, I guess I would probably have the same reaction. I mean, whether it would work or not, I mean, of course it's disrespectful to Sage's memory, and I loved Sage. I would have probably been friends with her, and Chelsea was friends with her, but there is a point where it's like, if all else fails, I could see just trying to throw anything at the wall to try to save your own family. I mean, I think from Chelsea's perspective, she's trying to save her son, trying to save her husband, trying to save her whole world, which is such a common theme, by the way. I mean, like, that's what these women are charged with. Even if you just kind of look at it in Sharon's situation, it's always about saving the family, keeping the family together, and doing whatever, even if it includes lying and scheming and who knows whatever else, you gotta do it. But I kind of like the idea of Nick, or at least of Chelsea telling Nick. I mean, I think Adam really, really wants to stay out of it, but not even so much that, like, I think it's like the world's greatest idea, but I think as from a storyline perspective, it is a good idea, because if Adam and or Chelsea tell Nick that Sage was keeping Christian's paternity from him, he's not going to believe it, first of all. There's no way he's going to go, oh, okay, I just completely believe you and I'll accept your word against my precious dead wife's. No. He's not going to believe it, but he will confide in Sharon about it. We had that scene in the park between them this week where he starts to open up about his feelings. So we know Nick is emotionally leaning on Sharon, and that in some ways she's the only one who's kind of understanding him. So if Adam and Chelsea tell Nick, Nick's gonna tell Sharon, and that's just gonna rattle around in her brain like a BB until it just pops. I mean, if Sharon gets a hold of that information, she's now in a whole new pickle. She is obviously not going to tell the truth, even if she learns the truth, but she might investigate it, and at the very least, when the truth comes out, I think, like, she probably would not offer up the truth, even if she found it out and knew beyond any shadow of a doubt, but like, I could see her getting caught with the truth somehow, and being forced to share the information that she's learned. But I think the larger reason why I think that would be a good storyline twist is because then Nick never really has to know that Sharon thought that Sully/Christian was his. Nick wouldn't have to lose a child all over again when he finds out that he's not really the father, because I think the trajectory we were all expecting from this storyline was that eventually Nick finds out, thinks that Sully is Christian, and then takes him and wants to raise him, but then we have this other factor of Adam and that truth, and then eventually Sully/Christian would get taken away from Nick and he'd have to lose all over again. But if Nick never knows that truth and this becomes a secret or something between Adam and Chelsea and Sharon, then Nick's kind of saved from that extra pain, and I think that's kind of an all right way to go with it. I don't know, you guys tell me what you think. I mean, were you as shocked by Chelsea jumping to that conclusion as I was, or jumping to that idea as I was? I think that's a fabulous poll question for this week. Do you think that Adam and or Chelsea should tell Nick about Christian's paternity? I mean, you may very well have a completely different perspective on it. I mean, are you feeling like, yes, they have to do this to save Adam and it's going to facilitate the truth coming out? Or do you find the idea of them betraying Sage's final wish to be just far too disrespectful? I'd love to get your thoughts on that at yrchat.com. Vote in the poll, leave me your comments, tell me if you think this is what needs to happen, that Nick finds out the truth, I suppose. So, gosh, I keep wanting to zero in on Sharon. I just think she's playing it so well right now. I mean, Sharon is trying to plead with Dylan to stay out of this whole mess. She doesn't want to have anything to do with it. And at the very final end of, I think, Friday's show, I want to say, Sharon gives Dylan this plea, this very passionate plea about why they should stay out of the Newman drama and maybe keep Nick away from them. Sharon tells Dylan that she's finally gained independence from the Newman drama. She says, look, my ex-husband comes with all kinds of baggage. I mean, these people literally drove me crazy. When they go to war, their tentacles just end up dragging you in, and I don't want to get involved in that again. And I loved that position of hers, even though that's really not true this time. It was like a truth. She was like using a truth to plea with Dylan, but it was not the whole truth. I like Sharon at this point in the story is at least partially in a hell of her own making. That's of course not to say that Sharon wanted any of this to happen, asked for any of this to happen, but she has determined and rationalized that the lie is safer, and now she has to live with it and all of the paranoia that goes along with that. There was this little tiny moment at the very beginning of the week where she discovers that Sully has a cowlick, and that's something that is genetic, and she doesn't want, and I guess Dylan doesn't have one and Nick does have one, so she's trying to cover that up, doesn't want Nick to see it. And that was the first point where she started to argue for keeping Nick away from the baby. I mean, and not only, there were so many other times throughout this week and last week where it's like somebody's talking about father and son and paternity, and then Faith comes in or Dylan walks in on it, and it's like she just has to continue to cover up lie after lie after lie. And I mean, probably one of the worst things about it is that the whole thing has put Mariah in an impossible situation. Mariah is not just skirting the truth. At this point, she is in the position of actively lying, whether it's to Faith or whether it's directly to Dylan. Dylan knows something's up with his wife. She's acting erratic, and yet Dylan is so caught up in his work and there's so many other things going on. I'm sure he feels like he can't really break through, and he's asked Sharon multiple times what's wrong with her, and she's just not budging, not giving the answers. So he does try to talk to Mariah about it, and what's she gonna do? She can't, she can't bust Sharon out. She's already, implicit, or she's implicated at this point in everything else that's going on. So she can't tell him. So she has to lie to his face. And it's sad. And it was a result of that conversation where where Mariah has to lie for Sharon, that Mariah begins to come around to seeing Sharon's point of view. Very, very key turning point in the story. Mariah, from looking in Dylan's face, realizing how much he loves this child, Mariah realizes that telling the truth to Dylan destroys the only family that she's ever known. Mariah is not someone who has experienced family and love. This is all she's got. And she doesn't want to be a part of blowing it all to pieces. So now it seems that even though Mariah knows the truth, she's not going to tell the truth. So either there's going to have to be some new twist to come out of left field that's going to bring this information to light, or Sharon is just going to eventually burst under the pressure. I have to backtrack just a little tiny bit to talk about Victor versus Paul. First of all, I love Paul this week. He's really digging in. He's getting scenes with the other veteran actors, and I just thought Paul really held his own this week. He was charming, he was smart, he was inquisitive. I loved seeing Paul go to the jail to question Victor about Adam and whether Victor was involved in the framing, and of course he didn't get any information from him. And I kind of think that the reason Victor's not saying much or not being specific when anybody asks him about whether he was involved in the framing is literally, it's what he said, because it doesn't matter what I say, you're not going to believe me either way. And I mean, it was pretty much that during the scene with Paul. Paul had this great line of, he was comparing Victor to to a baseball player. There was some baseball analogy in there about how Victor, he doesn't have the same pitches he used to, so he just throws curveballs, and he's wily and wild. And he's actually had this great line of saying, you have made an art, Victor, out of throwing us all off balance. And that was such a great counterpoint to everything that Victor was saying. And that may very well exactly be what Victor is doing, just throwing them all off balance. It was a great little scene. And even more interestingly, Paul paid a visit to Meredith right after, and I was thinking that we were seeing a little bit of a different side of Meredith during that whole interaction. She didn't lie to Paul when he tried to question her, but she wasn't completely forthcoming about it either. And I think she really tipped her hand to Paul about her relationship with Victor. She has been Victor's advocate through all of this. And anybody who will listen to her, she says, how could Victor's family do that to him? He loves them so much. And Paul just says, so you are kind of involved. You're aware of what's going on then, aren't you? So he caught her. He kind of gets, I think, the essence of what's going on there. But I kind of thought to myself at that point in the scenes, well, I almost kind of wish that Meredith was dark. I almost kind of wish that she was gonna be, I don't know, like, I appreciate more the idea of her as a dark cohort than just this blind fool in love with Victor, wanting to do anything for Victor, because it's clear, even when she straight up asks him, did you, or no, I don't even think she asked him. I think he asked her if she thought that he framed Adam. And she said, no, of course not. I don't have a doubt in my mind. Meredith trusts Victor implicitly. She does not question that man for a moment. And if that's genuine, if that's really truly who she is, it's going to be her downfall. I don't know. I tell you though, I just about died when she wanted him to have, first of all, a little prison dinner, romantic dinner with him, which consisted of a half-eaten sandwich and an orange on a tray with a plastic coffee mug. Ew. I mean, I don't know why, but I was revolted by looking at their little trays of food and thinking that was their idea of romance. I mean, for years, Victor would sweep Nikki away to or whoever his woman du jour was, away to the colonnade room for wine and roses and probably steak and lobster, and here he is having this prison food on a lunch tray. But what really threw me off was when Victor tried to leave and she goes to the door and locks it and peels off her lab coat and then slowly unbuttons her shirt and to reveal her bra. It was like a little tiny almost striptease, and I was saying out loud to my screen, no, I don't want to see. It felt like watching my dad get seduced or something. Like there was just that element of I don't want to see. Oh man. And then the very next day, I'm sure Victor's going back into the doctor's office. Did I call it a lab? I hope not. He goes back into the doctor's office to see if she's, to see her again, probably to follow up on the romancing, and she is not there. She's completely gone. Like, I think Victor is expecting to see his sexy unbuttoned shirt doctor, and he turns around and there's like this dude standing there, just some guy, and he's like, where's Meredith? She's on a leave of absence for an undetermined amount of time. What the heck? I mean, Victor sneaks a phone call to try to call her and see what's up, and we didn't really get any information. I'm confused. He was just trying to talk to her on the other end of the phone, like, we need you, I need you, where are you? What happened? I don't understand what happened. I saw an update on on the CBSSoaps.com that said something about her having a new role, like that she got a job doing something or other, which of course doesn't necessarily mean that she is not doing Y&R, but I'm wondering if like this is a gap for her. So how's Y&R gonna play this? Like, Dr. Gates, did they have sex? I guess that's another question. Did they have sex? And if so, did they get caught and maybe she was forced into a leave of absence? Or is she just having second thoughts about the whole thing? And if the actress if she did get a new role and maybe she's going to be off for a while, is there any chance she's going to leave for a while and come back pregnant with a Victor Newman love child? Luca Santori, you slimy, slimy guy. There's just, like, what is up with him? Luca, over and over again, gets his way and finds the slickest way to cover his tracks. He covered his tracks with Summer and Victoria on the whole oil spill press conference that he usurped and lied about. And then when Noah finds out about that, he tips Summer off, and she of course goes and huffs and puffs at him, which doesn't last long because he covers that up too. It's like everything just slides right off of him, like he's coated in grease or something. Nothing can touch Luca Santori. I mean, what are we supposed to think of him at this point? Did you see after he made up with Summer, there was this moment in Victor's office where he's kissing and hugging her, and then he, over her shoulder, looks up at Victor's portrait and just gives it kind of this creepy smile. Did you see that? What is he thinking? I guess he just wants the power. I suppose there is not too much to overanalyze about his motive. He just wants Newman Enterprises. He's been pretty clear about it all along, asking to take the helm. Where is his own father, by the way? Why doesn't he run his company? Why does it have to be Victor's company? And why Summer? I mean, I guess I keep thinking, especially at the beginning of the week when we were dealing with that oil rig thing, I keep thinking, I really wish Y&R would have paired Luca with Victoria. Because it's not that I don't like Luca. I mean, obviously he's not a nice guy, but he is very sexy. And I would like to see his shirt off more. And I think that he and Victoria would have been a much better couple, because the thing with Summer turns me off of him. Like, if he were just manipulative, like a manipulative business guy, I would chalk that up to being Jack Abbott or Brad Carlton, or name any other number of other people, other guys who have tried to come in and take Victor's seat. But the fact that he's specifically using Summer, and that's not to say that he doesn't have some feelings for her, but that really, really turns me off. If Luca was manipulating someone who seemed like a worthy opponent, then maybe that would be easier to swallow. But Summer is so innocent. I'll just play it safe and call it innocence. I think Summer has been sheltered her entire life. They've treated her like this little, like, Fabergé egg, and they've kept her behind glass or something. And it's like Summer seems to believe everything that she's told. So there's just no reason to question, or if she does question, it very easily gets written off. I mean, she had serious questions about Luca brought to her attention this week, and rather than kicking him to the curb, or maybe even just keeping him on reserve, maybe at arm's length until you feel more confident, she asked him to move in. She's allowed the fox into the hen house, and I think she's completely genuine, and that's gonna make me feel really sorry when she finds out that Luca is lying to her, and she will, because he is. I mean, he's actively manipulating now, lying right in front of her and using her. We're starting to see the way he's positioning her as a chess piece, and when she finds that out, which she will, it is going to break her heart. I almost wish that Y&R would just introduce a twist here. I wish we'd find out that Summer was using Luca to overthrow Newman Enterprises herself. Well, I'm a little confused. This week, Billy, it almost seemed like he was back in love with Victoria. There was this early in the week situation where Johnny got sick, and we all know as soap opera fans that there's nothing like a child getting sick to bring the two parents together. And I kind of thought, is that what we're doing here? It literally seems like every week somebody else is who Billy has his eyes on. And this week, at the beginning of the week, it really seemed like Victoria. There was a very sweet moment between them on the couch where there was like this acknowledgement, finally, that they meant something to one another, that they were married, that they share a family, that they shared a life, that these are two people who loved each other. But there was also this other layer of friendship that seemed to be coming out, and they played this sort of awkward version of truth or dare where they're saying, who are you sleeping with? Who are you sleeping with? Well, I'm sleeping with a princess. Well, I'm sleeping with a cowboy. It was really kind of funny and charming, and I just thought, well, where are we here? I mean, it's clear that these are two people who care about each other. Well, then why didn't they stay together? And I actually did have a moment during those scenes of thinking, well, is there any chance that Phyllis really is the rebound girl here? Because I keep having trouble believing that Billy is really truly in love and committed to any one person. I almost feel like Billy is just someone who's really confused at this point in his life. Maybe he doesn't know really who he is, or maybe he's in the process of rediscovering who he is. And so I thought maybe he is in love with Victoria, and the whole thing with Phyllis really is just about rebounding from her, and you mix in the revenge and the issues with Jack and wanting to take Phyllis from Jack, and of course the sexual attraction that he has for Phyllis. But then Billy catches Phyllis in a weak moment. She's sitting on a park bench and she's just thinking about her life, and Billy, of course, happens upon her and suggests that they go on a motorcycle ride. I should have known, we all should have known, as soon as a motorcycle got introduced into play, that there was gonna be some sort of accident. I don't know why I didn't figure it out. I couldn't believe that she got on the bike in the first place. She was in formal wear right before a gala event. I was like, girl, your hair is gonna be funked up after you get up off of that motorcycle. You are not just gonna like turn around and go back to the event. That was my whole argument for not getting on the motorcycle. I don't want to mess up my hair. But she did, because Billy is a tempter. He is a tempter. I mean, the way he looked at her and he says, oh, I know what you need. I mean, it was like watching him reel in a fish. I mean, because I just got the sense that Phyllis knew it was a bad idea, that she knew that, despite her better judgment, she should not do this, and yet she did it anyway. And of course, they get in a crash. The next thing we see is this scene of the mangled motorcycle, which, by the way, is not the motorcycle I had pictured in my mind when they were riding on it before. It kind of almost looked, I don't know anything about motorcycles, so forgive me, but it was white. It looked like a white motorbike, whereas I was picturing like a black and silver Harley or something. Something a little more menacing and rebel and badass, and that bike didn't look badass to me. And Phyllis is nowhere to be found. It's just the bike and Billy on the ground. And basically Phyllis just called 911, then fled the scene. All of a sudden we just see her at a gas station bathroom looking in the mirror and revealing her shoulder that's all bruised and battered. Why would she do that? I was absolutely flabbergasted that she would leave the scene like that. What was her motive? Was it panic? Was it paranoia? Was it just complete shock? Like, I just have to get out of here so that nobody knows I was with Billy, which, I mean, would it really have been the world's biggest problem for her if she would have got caught on the bike. I mean, I feel like I would have probably chose taking the repercussions. I can't imagine running away from the scene, because not only, it just didn't seem like her to me, because she cares about Billy. I would think she would stay and really, really make sure he was okay in a bigger way than calling 911. And she could have been seriously injured. She could have a broken collarbone. How's she going to explain that? It was so impulsive. I guess that's sort of the vibe of their whole relationship, that it's impulsive, that the motorcycle ride was impulsive in the same way that the sex was impulsive. It just feels good, and it's risky, and so she kind of understands risky behavior and being drawn to risky behavior. That's always been kind of a part of her character. It's sort of been a part, in a smaller way probably, of Billy's character too, and so they're just drawn together, and that's why this happens. And I guess she just didn't want to face Jack, didn't want to explain why she was on a motorcycle with Billy. I was just shocked. I mean, they go to the hospital and manage to cover up the lie. Billy covers up her lie by saying that Bethany was the one who was with him, and Phyllis, of course, puts more dirt on top of the lies. She has to help cover it up even more, because now Bethany's a factor. So she goes to see Bethany, and Bethany's like, wait, you want me to say that I was on a motorcycle and in a motorcycle accident with Billy? Especially after she had that scene with Jill, where Jill got up in her business, basically telling her she was a rebound girl to just go away. And now Bethany's supposed to turn around and do Billy this favor. Well, $10,000 might help with all that. Phyllis pays her off. Oh my goodness, Phyllis is becoming a really good villain here at this point. I couldn't believe she did that. I was glad to see Bethany again, though. I kind of like her, and I think this is going to be good, because we saw the previews for Monday's show where Billy and Bethany are together, and it kind of seems like they're now going to fake this relationship. I don't know if Phyllis is going to tell, I don't know if Phyllis and or Bethany are going to tell Billy that 10 grand was involved, or maybe if Bethany's just kind of going to use her own sort of emotional blackmail with Billy, because she guessed that Phyllis was the other woman that Billy's really, really interested in. So maybe she's going to just use this situation to her advantage and flaunt Billy around town in front of Phyllis to make Phyllis jealous. So I guess the other thing here is then, if that's the direction that it's going, and we're still, like, part of me at the beginning of the week thought, are we transitioning back to Billy and Victoria here? And then the Phyllis thing happened, and now I'm wondering, why bother with the overnight moment between Victoria and Billy if it was just gonna go nowhere? And there was this scene also in the hospital where Victoria finds out that Bethany was on the motorcycle with Billy, and she gets all upset about it and rushes out into the waiting room, and Phyllis follows her and says, well, look, he needs you. He needs saved from himself. All of his actions, Phyllis says, are just a reaction to what is going on between you two. He loves you. So I thought that was weird coming from Phyllis to Victoria, basically saying he's doing it because he still loves you. Well, does Phyllis actually think that? Or did she mean to say he's doing all of this because he really loves me? Bust out the gold-framed portrait of Katherine Chancellor. We're dedicating an entire wing in the Abbott Winters Foundation Rehab Center to Katherine Chancellor. Very appropriate. You know, I loved seeing that big old picture of Katherine. It was a classic pic, her with her hand up, showing the jewels. Of course, that woman knew how to model some jewels. Loved seeing Katherine. Will we ever see the rehab center is my question. We certainly should with all of the drunks in this town. But hey, at least we got that snazzy plaque. There's a Katherine memorial plaque with her face emblazoned on it. We'll never see the rehab center probably, but we'll see that plaque, I'm guessing. Oh, I love an event. I love all the cattiness that came from the event. Jill versus Hillary has been completely worth it. I mean, I've loved every moment of Jill being on the scene last week and this week, and I think she's going back to wherever it is that she's living now. She kind of indicated that in Billy's hospital room that everything's okay and she has meetings and she has to go, unfortunately. But I thought the Jill versus Hillary part was really fun and unexpected, and darn, if Hillary did not look gorgeous at that gala. I don't know what color dress that was. It was lavender or periwinkle or something, but her hair was on point. Her lipstick was kind of pale and she just looked super beautiful, and I loved seeing her get egg on her face, on her beautiful, beautiful face. It was awesome. I also loved that Nikki and Jill had a little bit of a friendly, in quotes, chat. Like, these two women are trying to be nice to each other, but it's clear there's a lot of history there. And I also have to say, I'm sorry, but Nikki's fashion has been on point 2 weeks in a row. She looked gorgeous last week in that white jacket. This week wearing that navy and aqua blocked dress with straight hair. Cannot tell you how happy I am to see Nikki looking fabulous. I loved Jill's dig where she says to Nikki, "How's Victor?" Nikki says, "I'm divorcing him." And Jill says, "Well, that's the smartest thing you've done since marrying him." Yes, ma'am. Hey, we even saw Esther at the gala. It was kind of nice to see Esther and Jill poking and bickering with one another just for old time's sake. And my goodness, I hadn't even thought about what the heck Esther would say about that house. Esther would flip her freaking wig if she walked into Katherine's house today. I wish they would make time for that scene. It would just be tears, though. It wouldn't even be funny. It would just be freaking sad. But Jill brought that up and I was like, oh my goodness, that's a good point. Oh boy. It was drama-filled, of course. Any gala is drama-filled. Jill kind of butts Hillary out of her presentation and gives her own presentation, and Jack gets to speak, but also, by the way, Neil got to speak. The second he walked up to that podium, I was afraid he was going to fall. We know Neil loves to take a dive and embarrass himself publicly, but he gives a very passionate little speech, and then he ends up checking himself in. He says, "I want to be the first check-in of our foundation. I need it. It's hard staying on the wagon." And it was a very honest moment for him. It seemed like Lily was really supporting him, and everyone is really supporting him. I loved, by the way, that tiny little scene between Kane and Nikki where Kane said, "You know, I just don't get it. I don't understand how someone could say that they love their family and that they understand that their drinking is causing problems, and yet they still do it." It was just a really honest and good scene between them. So I think it was important for Neil to check himself in to show his family that he is at least going to try. And even Nikki had to kind of follow up. Of course, the press wanted to gobble it up. And Nikki follows up with a speech saying, you know, even Katherine believed that the first step is the most important step because it's the step that we end up repeating the most. I mean, this, unfortunately, relapsing is part of the process of being an alcoholic. And I thought she gave a really, really smart and important follow-up to Neil's speech, and then she catches Victoria's eye off in the corner and says, "Oh, Victoria, why don't you step up here and say a few words?" Poor Victoria, her face was so shocked. I mean, I hate it when my mom pulls me into a press conference when I am not prepared for it. I mean, don't you agree? Don't you hate that when that happens? But Victoria stands up there and she does her best PR for Newman Enterprises and decides to give a giant $5 million donation to the foundation, which should be enough, by the way, to get her a wing there if she wanted it. And of course, old Travis has followed her, and he overhears her announcing her big donation and realizes that she is who she is. I mean, this guy, he's trying to have a small business. He's trying to run his bar. He's got money problems of his own. He's worried over 20 grand trying to fix the air conditioning in the place while she's giving away 5 million. I mean, it's not good. And the thing is, he made some comments early on in the week that were kind of indicating that he has a chip on his shoulder about the 1%ers, to which she says nothing. But I feel like he would have completely accepted her if she would have been honest with him from the beginning and said who she was. I think he would have been fine with it. It's the fact that she's been deceitful about it that's really ticked him off. I just keep wondering though about him. I can't help it. Is he keeping a secret of his own? So, Max has a brain tumor that may have affected his actions toward Abby and all of the bad kid things that he did. A brain tumor. Hey, why not? We haven't heard that one before. I mean, for crying out loud, there are so many brain tumors in this town. Has anyone considered testing the drinking water in Genoa City? It's ridiculous. How many other brain tumor victims can you think of? I put that up as a question at yrchat.com. Let's name some other brain tumors that have happened. I mean, because we've had several just in the last, year, but like, it's ridiculous. The brain tumor storyline is such a trope, and it's used for any number of reasons. I don't know how it's going to be used in this instance, but it's a good thing that we happen to have a resident brain tumor magic worker in Dr. Neville. So I'm assuming that Dr. Neville is going to get involved with Max and maybe cure young Maximilian of his brain tumor, or maybe YNR will just kill Max for all I know. Frankly, kids only have about a 50% survival rate around here, so I don't know. I think the tumor is either going to serve as to redeem Max or just get him out of the way completely, one or the other. There was a preview for Monday's show where Dr. Neville is telling Ashley or acknowledging with Ashley that she may be having side effects from his treatment, which I've been saying that for a while, that maybe Hillary and her sudden change in personality is a side effect from the drug therapy. So if that's the case, is there any chance Ashley's going to turn into the Wicked Witch of the West just like Hillary? Maybe they can share a broomstick. What is so great about the truth? If any sentence accurately describes Sharon's frame of mind, it's that one. That was last week's Who Said It quote. It's Sharon. What is so great about the truth is exactly what her mind frame is right now. You know, the truth sounds really, really great in theory, and it's easy to sit up on your high horse and say truth, truth, truth. But when it comes right down to it, the truth hurts. The truth destroys. And that really, really speaks to her frame of mind. As soon as she said it last week, I was like, boom! That is it. That explains so much. And not only that, but it's almost just such an innocently deceitful line. I just love it. What is so great about the truth? Everybody who guessed it got that one right. Justin and Jen, Sandra, T. Nicole, Gary, Nathalie, Sean, Sharita, Aaron, Troy, Sonia, Austin, Naomi, Victoria, Consuela, Candida, Dylan, and Tanya. Sharon was saying that to Mariah, by the way, in a scene, trying to justify herself. And I just thought it was good that you guys caught it because it was really subtle. She didn't even say it very loud. It was almost very flippant. But let's lighten it up with a little bit of a more of a fun Who Said It quote this week. Do you know who said, "If anybody needs me, I'll be at the bar"? I like it. It made me chuckle. yrchat.com if you would like to guess who said, "If anybody needs me, I'll be at the bar." You can leave your guess as a comment there on the blog. If you leave it on the blog and if you get it right, I will give you your big props during next week's YNR chat. How about some comments? Anna left me a voicemail early in the week regarding who is the one who's framing Adam. And Anna made a really good point that shifted me a little bit, saying, what you have to remember is that Sage loved Adam. Yes, she didn't have any problem lying, but she loved Adam. And Anna says, doesn't think would frame him, wouldn't do that to him. And I thought, yeah, you know what? That is a good point that I wasn't considering. There was definitely something between them, and I mean, it's hard to say. By the way, Anna left a follow-up voicemail with another thing I hadn't thought of, which is that maybe Victor had something to do with whatever happened with the oil rig. That didn't even occur to me, as Adam was telling Nick that Victor has it in for every single person in his life. It was certainly the brash and sassy thing Victor did to get back at Victoria, but you never know, he could have been behind the oil rig thing to cause bad press at the company and force her to have to deal with it. I never would have thought of that. Very good point, Anna. Consuela at yrchat.com says, I can tell that Adam really loved Sage in his own way. When Chelsea tells Adam that he needs to tell Nick about Christian's paternity, Adam is particularly appalled that Chelsea would even suggest going against Sage's dying wish. He really did love that woman and valued their friendship. I'm so glad you mentioned that, Consuela, because there was this moment where Adam says to her, woo, they call me ruthless, or they call Victor ruthless, or there was some sort of implication like, wow, I'm surprised that came out of you, Chelsea. And Gary also left a follow-up comment to Consuela at yrchat.com saying, yes, and I also think that Adam does not want to betray Sage on moral grounds for his own personal development, so that I can be the man you want me to be, he tells Chelsea. I love that point. It is sort of an indication that Adam is becoming this moral character. Adam's kind of becoming this good guy, and I think we're seeing Chelsea in her desperation switch things up a little bit and maybe bend the truth a little bit to defend the family. I think, and I love the point about Adam and Sage and the way they felt about each other, but Marianne at yrchat.com makes a good point, saying, I think it was Sage that framed him. She would be able to use her own handwriting or use of terms that would not send a red flag to Nick. Sage was hot and cold about Adam, and maybe she wrote it when she was mad at Adam and then forgot about it. Very good, Mary Ann. I like also that you mentioned the handwriting, because have we done a handwriting analysis? Do we know for sure that it was even Sage's writing? I'd love to get a follow-up on that. Justin left me a voicemail that says, I'm not saying Victor did or didn't frame Adam for murder, but it wouldn't be the first time he did it. Remember Sky Lockhart? Victor faked Sky's death and framed Adam for it. I love that callback. I think that was happening right at around the time that YNR Chat podcast started, because I think that was one of the very first topics we were talking about. So we definitely talked about that at the time. That's a good pull. Daisy on Facebook says, I like the idea that it could be Ian Ward, and maybe Meredith is one of his followers and helped him. Woohoo! And isn't it weird then, Daisy, that Meredith disappears as soon as Ian appears on the scene? I also like Daisy's point that if it is Victor framing Adam, Meredith might be helping him set Adam up. Victor told her he knew factually that Adam was guilty, so maybe Meredith, because she's a doctor and likely has access to hospital lab, altered the results, believing because of what Victor told her that she was getting justice for Constance. I like that scenario too. As a matter of fact, Daisy, I like both of those scenarios because they both give us kind of a darker Meredith. And what you're making me think now when you said that about her having access to hospital lab, is there any chance that Paul's digging is going to lead right to Meredith when it comes to finding out who would have a motive to switch those results? Woohoo, he's definitely got his antenna up when it comes to her. That may be it. Ooh, good point. as always. Shakanda in the Netherlands says, I honestly don't think that anyone is framing Adam. He's done some shady things in the past. It's very true, Shakanda. She left that comment for me on Facebook, and I thought, I wouldn't put it past him. There's pretty much nothing I wouldn't put past him. I mean, there's nothing I'd put past any of the characters. At the end of the day, they're kind of all terrible people. Except maybe Summer. She's the only non-terrible person, and she's boring. Gary left me a voicemail this week saying, last time Billy came out of a coma, Billy changed all right in every conceivable way possible. No offense to Jason Thompson, but I wouldn't mind seeing another new Billy on the other side of that hospital door. I forgot about that, Gary, that the last time Billy was in the hospital, he went in one actor and came out another actor. So that was a fun little jog of my memory. Also, I wanted to say that I saw an article at CBS Soaps that said, Burgess Jenkins released a statement this past week that his wife is cancer-free. The reason why he left the last Billy we had left the role was because his wife was diagnosed with cancer, and he was commuting back and forth from the East Coast, so he needed to understandably, of course, go take care of his wife. And now he's announcing that she's cancer-free. That's so wonderful. I just really smiled to hear that. I liked that actor, and of course I'm wishing him the best. That's wonderful news. Anne Boleyn on YouTube, though, says, I'm loving Bad Boy Billy and Philly all day long. You go, Anne Boleyn. I mean, I tell you, I want to hear from some more people that are loving Billy and Phyllis. I gotta balance myself out here a little bit more. So keep the Philly love coming. I want to hear it. Tony at yrchat.com says, of course Victoria likes Travis. He looks like the last three Billies. Zing. And Monica on Facebook says, I'm so glad Travis called Victoria out for being a phony. Thank you, Travis. Yeah, I know. And she's gonna find her way out of it, of course. It was a little bit presumptuous the way Victoria says, look, I'm a very capable businesswoman. You have money problems. Let's talk about it. I'll fix your problems. It was a little kind of condescending. He's not gonna appreciate it, but eventually, they're gonna come around to being together. Do you think that they will? I mean, maybe not. And if so, do you want them together? Where are we on Tori and Travis at this point in the game? Tina Cole at yrchat.com says, I feel bad for Mariah being put into the secret keeping game of Sharon's, because when the truth comes out, she can be blamed because she knew and never said anything. And Sandra at yrchat.com followed that up and said, Tina Cole, I agree with you regarding Mariah. I feel it was very selfish of Sharon to tell Mariah anything about Sully and Christian, Sully/Christian, unless, of course, Sharon was telling everyone involved with the truth. She put a burden on Mariah to keep the secret, all while lightening her conscience by spewing out the whole sordid story. Remember how Allie talked about how no one really blamed Sharon since she was tricked into the situation? But now Sharon is guilty, and she's making Mariah guilty too. Dang, Sandra, your comments are always so good. That's so darn true. Nailed it. And I just love the way you said that it's basically, it's the burden is now taken off of Sharon and put onto Mariah. Oh, it's like and Mariah just got pulled in the same way that the Newman drama pulls in people with their tentacles. I mean, it was a little bit ironic that Sharon was saying that about the Newman sucking you into their problems when Sharon has sucked Mariah into hers. Oh my. By the way, when we're talking about Mariah, what happened with Kevin and Mariah? Last week they were smooching and being friends, and now this week Michael rightly encourages Kevin to just make a decision. Who do you want to be with? And Kevin chose Natalie. He tells Natalie he wants to give that a try, give that relationship a try, which I guess is fine. I mean, ultimately, he seems to have a better romantic chemistry with Natalie, so I'm fine with it. I just feel bad that Mariah's left on the outside, and if Kevin doesn't have a conversation with Mariah about this before she finds out or sees them snuggling up together, I'm gonna be annoyed. If you have have stronger feelings for Natalie, that's fine. Nobody blames you for that, but you need to be clear and honest with Mariah. By the way, we found out this week that Judge Moxley is going to be presiding over Adam's trial, and I thought to myself, there was a scene between Kevin and Mariah, maybe even like Monday, where Kevin and Mariah are, a scene between Kevin and Natalie around Monday where they're talking about Mariah's family troubles, and Natalie makes some kind of comment about, well, at least Mariah has a family, and then I think one episode later we find out that Judge Moxley is going to be presiding over Adam's trial. Hello, YNR, we know that Natalie is a love child of Judge Moxley and Victor's, so just bring it on, okay? We're ready for it. I think it's coming. Consuela at yrchat.com says, the whole Max having a tumor, which is making him act out storyline, immediately made me think of Jana and how she had a tumor, which made her do horrible things to Kevin. That's interesting how they're reusing that storyline. Amen, Consuela. I swear we've seen it more than once. That's why I put that thread up at yrchat.com so we can start naming and listing and chronicling all of the tumors of Genoa City. If you can think of one, go to the website and let me know. I'll read some other good ones, because I mean, for crying out loud, how long has this show been on the air? 30 years? There's got to be at least 300 tumors by now. Okay, you guys, this was an extra long YNR chat, but before I go, I have to tell you guys to make sure you come back next week, because we are going to be having, the summer Soap for Soap Fans giveaway. Yay! I made 4 new Young and the Restless inspired soaps. I'll just give you a hint. This was a Newman summer for me. And matter of fact, if you want to go to genoacitysoap.com, you can see all 4 of them with photos, videos, descriptions. They look beautiful. I did something kind of kooky and fun with one of them. I think they're pretty creative. And next week, I'm going to start doing the giveaway announcement. In fact, I'm going to start the giveaways next Saturday. So if you want to enter early, while you're at genoacitysoap.com, sign up for the newsletter, because I'm going to send out a newsletter reminder next Saturday with a link to where you can sign up for the main Soap for Soap Fans giveaway, and also the secret giveaway, which is only available to the newsletter subscribers. So there's 2 chances to win if you get that, and you'll get a reminder. But if you just come back to YNR chat next Sunday, I will make sure that you get all of the information to enter the drawing for winning a bar of handmade by Allie cold process soap that it's inspired by 4 Young and the Restless characters, and you'll get to pick which one you want to have if you win. So I've been working on those since like March. They take 6 weeks to make them, so I'm really excited to send those out to you guys. So come back next week for some soap, and come back next week for talking about some soaps. And in the meantime, of course, you can leave me your comments. yrchat.com was where the blog is. Then from there you can find Facebook and YouTube. Feel free to leave comments in all those places, as well as the voicemail number, which is 309-588-4569. Your comments are what keep me pumped all week, and really help me to enjoy the show even more than I already do. So keep them coming. I love you guys, and I will talk to you next week. Bye.